Hey guys, this video is going to explain how to write an equation when you are given the slope and the y-intercept of a line. So a couple of vocabulary things to start with. Remember, slope tells the direction and the steepness of a line. So the larger the number is, the larger the slope, the steeper the line is. And from now on, we are going to refer to slope with the variable m. The y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. So if you have a graph, your coordinate plane that looks like this, and you have a line that goes this way, the y-intercept is the number on the y-axis right here where that line crosses the y-axis. And from now on, we're going to refer to that with the variable b. There are two different forms of equations we're going to talk about in this video. The first one is slope-intercept form, where it's y equals mx plus b. And the two letters we just talked about, m stands for slope, and b represents the y-intercept. So just remember, if they give you the slope and the y-intercept, you can plug it into slope-intercept form. And this is probably the three types of forms of equations. You will probably want to have these memorized. So here's our first example. Write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form that has a slope of -4 and a y-intercept of -7. So remember, slope is represented by the variable m. So the slope is -4, and the y-intercept is represented by the variable b. So the b is -7. Now remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, and all we're going to do is to take these numbers and substitute them in where you see those variables. The x and the y are going to stay x and y. So we're going to drop the y down. The m, or the slope, is -4. We're going to keep the x. And the b is a -7. So instead of putting plus a -7, I'm just going to write -7. And that is all there is to it. Okay, now let's write an equation in slope-intercept form from the graph. You'll still be able to find the slope and the y-intercept and then write your equation. So the first thing we need to do is to find the slope and the y-intercept. I think the easiest thing to find first is the y-intercept. So I'm looking for where the line crosses the y-axis, and that's at this point right here, and that would be +3 on the y-axis. So the b, the y-intercept, is a +3, and then we need to find our slope. Remember, slope, we're going to do rise over run. If you go up, it's positive. If you go down, it's negative. So if I'm starting at the furthest point on the left, that's our y-intercept, and I need to go down to get to the other point. So I need to go down 6. So since I went down, that's a -6 as the numerator. And then I need to go over 1. And then I can simplify that. -6 divided by 1 is just -6. So we have the slope is -6. The y-intercept is +3. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And we're just going to substitute those numbers in for the variables. So we're going to keep y. The m was -6. Keep x. The b is a +3. And there we go. So that's slope-intercept form. Okay, the second form of an equation we're going to work with today is called standard form. and that looks like ax plus by equals c. So it's pretty similar to slope-intercept form, except the x term and the y term are both on the left-hand side. There's a couple of rules that you have with standard form that you didn't have to worry about with slope-intercept form. The first rule is that the first number, the number in front of the x, cannot be a negative number. And the second rule is that they must all be whole numbers. You can't have any fractions in standard form. So I will show you in a couple of examples how to solve those problems. So just a few steps about how to write an equation in standard form. The first one is you're going to start by doing the same thing we just did, by writing the equation in slope-intercept form. Then the second step is to either add or subtract to move the x term to the left side. Remember, you always do the opposite of what is being done in the equation. Next, if the x term is negative, you're going to multiply every term by a -1, so that's just going to change all of the signs. And then finally, if there is a fraction, you will multiply each term by the denominator, or by the least common multiple of the denominators, to cancel out all of the fractions. I've got two examples for you. First example, number 3, you're going to write the equation in standard form of the line with a slope of -5 and a y-intercept of +1. So remember, we're using those letters m and b, so the slope is m, the slope of this line is -5, and the y-intercept is b, and that is a +1. Now remember, your first step is to just rewrite that in slope-intercept form. So that's y equals mx plus b. And then we're going to substitute in those numbers for m and b. So you should end up with y equals -5x plus 1 for a +1. Okay, next we're going to add or subtract the x term, which is this -5x here, to make it go to the left-hand side. Now this looks like a -5x. So the opposite of a -5x is a +5x. So that's how we're going to get this term to the other side. Now remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And I'm going to bring it out front, in front of the y, because remember the standard form says it has to be ax and then plus by. So we always put the x term first and then the y term. So the x terms now cancel out. And on the left-hand side, we have a +5x. And this is a +y because there's not a minus sign in front of it. And on the right side of the equal sign, we have a +1. Since your first number is a positive, that's great, and you don't have any fractions. So this is your final product for standard form. So all it was moving the 5x over. Okay, here's another one where we're going to write the equation, this time in standard form, of the line shown on the graph. So again, we're looking for the slope and the y-intercept. The y-intercept is right here where the line crosses the y-axis, and that's at -2. So the y-intercept, the b, is -2. And then we need to find the slope. So I'm going to look for a second point, which I see one right here. So to get from the left point to the right point, I need to go up 2, so that's a +2, and over 3. So the slope of this line is 2/3. And then I'm going to put that in slope-intercept form. So that's going to be y equals 2/3 x minus 2. So there it is in slope-intercept form. Okay, now we need to move the x term to the other side. So this is a positive 2/3 x on the right. So the opposite of a positive is a negative, or minus 2/3 x. We're going to take it out front because it's the x term. So now the x terms have canceled on the right. And we have negative 2/3 x. And we had that positive y up here, so plus y equals -2. Okay, two things wrong with this. We're not finished yet because the first term is a negative and because we have a fraction. So let's do one thing at a time. Let's get rid of the negative first. and that means we're going to multiply everything in here by -1. So a -1 times a -2/3 is going to be a +2/3 x. A -1 times a positive y is going to be -y. And a -1 times a -2 is going to be a +2. Okay, so now we're good. We don't have a negative in the front, but we do still have a fraction, and it has a denominator of 3. So since the denominator is 3, that's like we're dividing that by 3. We're going to do the opposite and multiply every term by 3. And that will get rid of the fractions. Okay, so 3 times 2/3 is just going to be 2x. 3 times a -y is going to be -3y. And 3 times 2 is going to equal 6. Okay, so here's your finished product. It's a little bit more work, but this is how we would write this equation in standard form. Okay, you have 4 questions in your check for understanding. This page has 2 questions. These both need to be written in slope-intercept form. One just given the information, the other from a graph where you have to find the information. And then the next page is going to show you part 2. So these 2 questions need to be written in standard form. Again, the first question, or number 3, gives you the information. Number 4, you're going to have to find it. Make sure it's in standard form. Then make sure to check your answers before you go on.